My place in Canadian history. What is my place in Canada? Well, my name is Brady Long, son to Mike Long and Jody Ackrell. I live in the prairies of the country, specifically Estevan, Saskatchewan. The story of how I came to exist here starts on my mom's side of the family, just after the Second World War. The families of my mother's parents, David and Patricia, migrated to Saskatchewan after World War II. Patricia's father, Henry Godman, was a boxer in Gallatin, Missouri. In hopes of finding work and starting a better life, Henry moved to Outram, Saskatchewan to work on a farm. That farm was the home of Thelma and Netta Whitman. Henry and Thelma met and later got married and bought a farm just across the highway from Thelma's parents. Here they had my grandma Pat in 1945. Pat grew up in this farmhouse until she was 5 years old before moving to a house in Estevan at 801 King Street. Neither house had electricity or indoor plumbing. Pat spent her time listening to music and playing the organ. She was amazingly able to listen to a tune on the radio and play the same tune on the organ without learning the notes. She enjoyed skating on the frozen ponds in the winter. Pat also kept busy by doing chores like feeding the chickens and helping her mother cook and clean for a small allowance of 25 cents per week. This was just enough for her to go to the local movie theater for a show. Pat attended Magin School, then later Hillside and Pleasantdale, and transported there by miniature pony. She was taken out of school at grade 8 to help her mom with the housework. She also went to the Free Methodist Church and later the Church of God. My mom's dad's father, Harry Ackrell, was from England. He was a pilot in the British Air Force. He was faced with the task of traveling to Canada to train the pilots in the Canadian military. While he was here, he met his future wife, Elizabeth Huron, who lived on a farm near Torquay, Saskatchewan, with her stepbrothers, father, and stepmom. In 1944, Harry and Elizabeth gave birth to my grandpa David. After experiencing the brutal conditions of the 1946 winter in Torquay, Harry, Elizabeth, and newly born David moved back to England for 2 years. Then they returned to Saskatchewan and Harry built a house in the city for Elizabeth and himself. He dug out the entire basement and built the whole house himself on 430 3rd Street in Estevan. David was enthusiastically interested in sports and spent a lot of time watching black and white football games on TV. He also had chores, like shoveling coal into the furnace in the basement. At age 10, he started delivering papers for the Leader Post and made his own money. He had saved up enough money to buy a $61 bicycle, which he made monthly payments on. David attended Valley View Elementary School, Westview for grade 8, and Estevan Collegiate for grades 9 to 12. He also went to the United Church every Sunday and Sunday school at the Church of God. One day, when Pat was at the grocery store, David noticed her and offered her a ride home. This led to them getting married 3 months later at the Olden United Church. On January 26, 1978, David and Pat gave birth to my mother, Jody Ackrell. On my dad's side of the family, a man named Stanley Long migrated from England to the Roche Percy area with his family, who was given farmland to start a better life. Around the same time, a similar situation happened to a woman named Marie Thompson. Her family had migrated north from the United States. Marie's family had ended up in the same area as Stanley's family, near Roche Percy. Stanley and Marie also went to the same elementary school, and from here ended up getting married. They bought a house in Frobisher and then moved to a house in Roche Percy. They gave birth to my grandpa Bob on December 16, 1954. Bob grew up going to a very small school in Roche Percy until grade 7, then started going to Beanfate School. For high school, Bob attended the ECS. He amused himself at school by playing baseball, marbles, and soccer, but out of school, he loved to hunt and fish. He was given some money by his parents if he really wanted to buy something, which was usually candy or bullets for shooting small animals or targets. While he was growing up, he remembers experiencing the news of the assassination of President Kennedy and the events of the Cold War, even though these didn't affect his family personally. He also remembers watching the first ever Canada vs. Soviet Union Hockey Summit Series in 1972. At the same time my grandpa Bob's family migrated to Canada, my grandma's father, Carl Elstrom, had traveled from Sweden across the ocean to Minnesota. He went to school there until grade 6, when he was taken out of school, and started working at a flour mill at 12 years old. Later on, he migrated north to work on a farm near Torquay, Saskatchewan. While working there, he met a woman named Pearl Stabenow, who was born in Bromhead, Saskatchewan. Pearl's family was already living near Torquay. Carl and Pearl lived on a farm near Torquay, where they had my grandma Burl in 1955. 5 years later, in 1960, they bought a house in Midale, Saskatchewan. This house also had no electricity or indoor plumbing. Burl amused herself by playing hopscotch, playing with dolls, and also riding her bike and skating on the frozen pond. She went to Mydale School for all of her elementary and high school years. One occasion that she remembers as a kid was experiencing Canada's 100th birthday in 1967, as it was a major event. Later on, at a winter carnival in 1974, my Grandma Burl and my Grandpa Bob met each other for the first time. In April of the next year, they got married in Mydale, and on June 19, 1978, they had my dad, Michael Long. Mike and Jody both attended ECS for high school, where they met, leading to them eventually getting married and having me on May 7, 1999. My ancestors migrated from many different places, including southern United States, Sweden, and England. My ancestors also had relatively the same reason for coming over to Canada too, to find jobs in hopes of starting a better life here. It was at this point in history, around the Second World War, that many people from many different countries migrated to Canada. A lot of people traveled to Canada from Europe and the United States due to propaganda about Western Canada and lack of jobs in their homeland. This greatly impacted the population of Canada, as it gained many new people during this time. My great-grandparents and grandparents have experienced many significant events such as World War II, the assassination of President Kennedy, Canada's 100th birthday, and the first ever Canada vs. Soviet Union hockey series. These are all significant real-life events, and it's very interesting to talk to people that have experienced them firsthand. Thanks for listening to the story of my place in Canadian history.